in a chilling revelation. He was a closeted psychopath, lurking in the shadows, waiting for a defenseless target. Meanwhile, Savannah Spurlock was careening down a treacherous path, caught in the grip of sex, drugs, and alcohol, accumulating one reckless decision after another. One fateful night in Lexington, Kentucky, the lives of these two individuals would intersect, leading to a harrowing 6-month search for a missing person and an unspeakable discovery in a family's unsuspecting strawberry patch. Before delving deeper into this tragic tale, we extend our deepest sympathies to the friends and family of Savannah Spurlock. It was Thursday night, January 3rd, 2019, and 3 young men were preparing to unwind after a demanding week of night shifts. They had plans to enjoy Thirsty Thursday at the local bars in Lexington. Eager for cheap drinks and the company of young women, they sought to blow off some steam, unaware that their night would take an unforeseen turn. In a nearby town, Richmond, 23-year-old mother Savannah Spurlock had just borrowed her mother's car. She reassured her mother that she was merely stepping out to grab some food and would return shortly, but Savannah had far grander plans. Determined to escape her reality, Savannah intended to meet up with her friends, Jocelyn Hutch and Dion Johnson, in Lexington. She craved a night out, a brief respite from her tumultuous life. Savannah had endured a challenging month leading up to this evening. Just weeks prior, she had given birth to twins, her 3rd and 4th children. Though she had expected a baby, she was blindsided by the reality of twins. Due to an unfortunate incident during her hospital stay, the twins were sent home with their father, her ex-boyfriend, while Savannah returned to her mother's house. In a series of unfortunate events, just 2 weeks later, Savannah faced arrest on DUI charges, with a court date looming on January 7, 2019. Despite her troubles, she was determined to enjoy her night out. Savannah and her friends drove to Dion's house, where she parked her mother's car across the street. Locking her large purse inside, she took only a small clutch. The chill in the air was palpable, yet she opted not to wear a coat as they entered their friend's home. Inside, they began pre-gaming, drinking before heading out to the vibrant bar scene. By 1:30 a.m., the trio decided to venture into downtown, where the nightlife beckoned. Meanwhile, the 3 young men had gathered at the Two Keys bar in Lexington, but quickly sought another venue, deterred by an expensive cover charge. They found themselves at the other bar, where they settled in with drinks, unaware of the storm brewing ahead. Savannah and her friends also drifted to the other bar, where they shared drinks and laughter. Kayla Hamlin joined them, capturing memories with a photograph before bidding farewell for the night. As the night wore on, Dion announced his departure, citing a court date the following morning. Savannah and Jocelyn assured him they would be fine, watching as he left, unaware of the peril that awaited them. Back in Richmond, approximately 25 miles away, Savannah's mother, Ellen Spurlock, grew concerned when she realized her daughter would not be bringing the car home. In a moment of fear, she contacted the Richmond Police Department to report the vehicle stolen. Little did they know, the police would soon be on the lookout for both Savannah and her car, as the clock was ticking and darkness loomed over the unfolding events. Savannah Spurlock was already far beyond the reach of her friends' concerned gazes. In a frantic effort to locate her daughter, Ellen Spurlock reached out to as many of Savannah's friends as would answer, urging them to keep an eye out for the young woman. Meanwhile, at another bar, Savannah and her friend Jocelyn found themselves embroiled in a heated argument, leading to the intervention of the club's bouncers. They warned the 2 women to quiet down or face expulsion from the establishment. As the night wore on, Savannah chose a different path, beginning to flirt with men scattered around the bar. Jocelyn, finding a ride home, decided to leave for the night after Savannah assured her that she could manage on her own. In the dim light of the bar, David, Isaiah, and Brandon had just settled into their second round of drinks when Savannah approached them, her playful flirting drawing their attention. As last call loomed, the group made plans to leave the bar. For the 3 men, the night still felt young. Savannah, too, was reluctant to end the evening. The 4 decided to continue the festivities together. Brandon, new to the area from South Carolina and currently staying with family, couldn't host at his place. Isaiah had just moved into an unfurnished apartment, leaving David's house in Lancaster, Kentucky, as their destination, a road trip of approximately 40 miles. Surveillance footage from a nearby parking deck captured the moment the young woman and the 2 men departed toward their vehicles. This footage would become the last known sighting of Savannah Spurlock alive. The group took a slightly longer route to David's house, while David drove his black Chevrolet S10 pickup truck on a separate path. In the midst of this, Ellen Spurlock managed to connect with Savannah via FaceTime. Ellen later reported to investigators that during the call, she could see her daughter in someone else's car, accompanied by one of the two men. Savannah assured her mother that she was fine, promising to catch a ride back to her own vehicle and be home by morning. The call ended abruptly, and Savannah switched her phone to airplane mode, cutting off all communication. The night was still young for the three men, accustomed to the night shift. Savannah Spurlock, refusing to call it a night, decided to join them in their revelry. Brandon, having just relocated from South Carolina, was staying with family, making his place unavailable. Isaiah, fresh into his new apartment, had yet to furnish it. The group settled on a road trip to David Sparks' house in Lancaster, Kentucky, a journey of roughly 40 miles. Security footage from a nearby parking deck captured the four of them heading towards their vehicles. This would become the last known sighting of Savannah Spurlock. As the two men accompanied her, David took a different route in his black Chevrolet S10 pickup truck, while Savannah and her companions opted for a scenic detour back to David's residence. In a desperate bid to connect, Savannah's mother, Ellen Spurlock, finally reached her daughter via FaceTime. Ellen would later recount to investigators that Savannah appeared to be in someone else's car, alongside one of the two men. Savannah reassured her mother, stating she was fine and would return to her vehicle, promising to be home by morning. Following that exchange, Savannah switched her phone to airplane mode, cutting off any further contact. Tragically, Savannah never returned home. By Saturday evening, around 9 p.m. on the 5th, her car was discovered by a friend. Ellen promptly canceled the stolen vehicle report, arranging to have the car returned to Richmond. Yet Savannah's absence was troubling. It wasn't uncommon for her to stay out late, but as the hours passed without word, concern began to mount. Sunday dawned, and still there was no sign of Savannah. No texts, no updates on social media. The worry escalated, prompting Ellen to file a missing persons report with the Richmond Police Department. With the involvement of law enforcement from Lexington, Kentucky, and neighboring jurisdictions, it became clear that something was profoundly wrong. Savannah was even set to miss a court appearance on Monday the 8th, related to a DUI charge. Images from the parking deck security footage were disseminated across local television stations, newspapers, and online platforms, appealing to the public for any leads on Savannah's whereabouts. The three men featured in the footage were quickly identified by local police and brought in for questioning. David Sparks faced interrogation from both local and state investigators. The visuals of his questioning would later be blacked out for public release. During the interrogation, David recounted the events that led to their return to his house. He described a night filled with music and dancing, where he shared intimate moments with Savannah. He stated that they moved to his bedroom, where they engaged in light foreplay, but soon he noticed Savannah beginning to daze in and out of consciousness. Concerned for her well-being, David and his companions decided to help her back to the bedroom, allowing her to sleep it off, believing he would give her a ride home in the morning. When pressed about who assisted Savannah back to his room, David confirmed it was Isaiah, with each man supporting her on either side. He described Savannah as being heavily intoxicated, so much so that she had been past drunk. Yet he maintained that she had not vomited. Interrogators probed deeper, asking if Savannah had kept her clothing on throughout the ordeal. David insisted she had remained fully dressed, stating emphatically that no one had removed her clothes. In these chilling admissions, the atmosphere thickened as the detectives sought clarity in the shadows of that fateful night. In a matter-of-fact recounting, David Sparks described how he and Savannah Spurlock ended up back at his residence. They had been listening to music, sharing some light-hearted moments, with Savannah dancing a little. Eventually, the two moved toward the bedroom, where David followed her after a brief moment of foreplay and kissing. As the night unfolded, the group gradually retreated to the bedroom. However, it was not a full gathering. It was merely Savannah Spurlock and her friend Isaiah, along with another friend who remained behind. No one ventured deep into the bedroom. The interactions there were brief, limited to just 2 or 3 minutes. They mostly occupied themselves with music and light conversation. Alcohol flowed freely, shots of crayon, poured in glasses, were consumed, and the atmosphere grew increasingly relaxed. Savannah and her friend shared most of the drinks, engaging in a game of shot for shot. Soon, the intoxication set in, and the night took a turn. Savannah became noticeably drunk, and at one point she even rushed to the bathroom to throw up. In a revealing account, David Sparks, the man at the center of the investigation, spoke about the night's events. He described moments of playful interaction, but insisted that he and his friends had not taken advantage of Savannah after she lost consciousness. Continuing his narrative, David recounted how, around 5 a.m, Savannah sat beside him, drifting in and out of consciousness. Concerned for her well-being, he and Isaiah decided to assist her back to the bedroom, believing it was best to let her sleep it off. As the night progressed, he noticed Savannah began to drift in and out of consciousness. Concerned, he and his friend helped her back to his bedroom, where they decided it was best to let her sleep. David resolved to give her a ride home in the morning, believing that would be the end of the night's events. When asked who carried Savannah back to the bedroom, David admitted that he and Isaiah assisted her, each taking one side. Savannah was clearly intoxicated, teetering on the edge of unconsciousness. Despite her condition, she remained fully clothed, and David confirmed that no one had removed her clothing throughout the night. In a critical moment of the investigation, it became clear that Savannah Spurlock had remained fully clothed throughout the harrowing events. Witnesses confirmed that she did not undress, and no one had forcibly removed her clothing. Under questioning, David recounted the night Savannah Spurlock had stayed at his home. When asked about the bed she had slept in, he answered, "A queen size." He explained that he chose his bedroom because he wanted to provide her with a comfortable place to sleep. He emphasized that it was the best place in the house to rest. With the lights turned off and the door closed, they lingered together for another 15 to 20 minutes before Savannah and her friends departed for Lexington. David recalled drifting off to sleep in his recliner, positioned against the window. At approximately 9:30 that morning, he was jolted awake by Savannah's voice, inquiring about the address she needed. After a brief period of hanging out for another 15 or 20 minutes, the group decided to leave and return to Lexington. Savannah then returned to the bedroom, and David heard the door click shut. He was unsure of her actions at that moment. When asked about the time, he confirmed it was around 9:30 in the morning. Still feeling the effects of alcohol from the previous night, he fell back asleep. When he finally awakened again around 11:30, he noticed a text from Brandon asking how everything went. To his shock, Savannah was no longer in the house. David recalled Savannah repeatedly saying, "Hey," as she stirred back to awareness. He managed to wake her enough to provide his address, after which she turned and walked back into the bedroom, leaving David uncertain about her intentions. It was around 9:30 in the morning. Although David intended to stay awake, he succumbed to sleep, only to wake around 11:30. When he did, he found a text from his friend Brandon, inquiring about the night's events, but Savannah was no longer there. David discovered that his door had been left unlocked, and Savannah was missing. Alarm bells rang in his mind as he realized she had vanished without a trace. As investigators delved deeper into the case, they discovered that David Sparks had left his door unlocked. Savannah was nowhere to be found. With urgency, authorities questioned David about his whereabouts, leading them to secure a search warrant for his residence in Lancaster. They also sought access to his S10 pickup truck and his cell phone, which he willingly surrendered to the police. As the investigation continued, the Lancaster police turned their attention to David's house. The last confirmed sighting of Savannah Spurlock had been there. They canvassed the neighborhood, seeking any potential witnesses or security camera footage that could validate David's account. On January 9th, just 5 days after Savannah was last seen, Brandon Lewis found himself under scrutiny. Investigators needed to unravel the events of that early morning. In a detailed recounting, Brandon echoed David's narrative. He described how the three men had taken turns entering a bedroom with Savannah throughout the night. Brandon claimed there had been considerable physical contact, but insisted that none of the men had engaged in intercourse with her. When questioned about the conclusion of the night, he hesitated, recalling, "After David, we were looking at David or whatever." Brandon continued, "Isaiah and I were like, this is a dead mission. Savannah was out cold. We decided it was time to leave. I told him, 'You straight?' Brandon further explained, 'That was our moment. Once she was out, I figured we could leave. I asked David if he was good to sleep on the couch." He recalled, "David was concerned that Savannah would wake up and see a stranger in bed with her. I thought it was for the best, too." However, doubts crept in. Investigators pressed Brandon, questioning whether David actually slept on the couch, which was more of a recliner than a bed. Could he even lay down on that thing? Brandon wondered aloud, reflecting on the uncomfortable setup. "At the time, I thought he was going to sleep on the bed," he admitted. "But now that I think about it, it doesn't really make sense. You can't stretch out on that thing." The investigators pressed for clarity. "Did you ask him about it afterward?" they inquired. Brandon acknowledged. "In the days that followed, he kept insisting he slept on the couch, but now I question how he could have done that. He said it was uncomfortable," Brandon recalled. "The couch was so close to the wall you could recline, but you couldn't really lay back." Realizations hit hard. "He couldn't have slept on that couch," Brandon concluded. "He must have spent the night in bed with her." As Brandon contemplated the situation, he realized Savannah wouldn't be able to provide any different account of the night. "She was out of it," he said, the weight of the events pressing heavily on his mind. David insisted that he had been sleeping upright or shared the bed with Savannah, adding a layer of complexity to the situation. He noted that due to her intoxication, Savannah would likely not be able to provide a coherent account of the events. In a troubling description, a witness recounted the chilling scene, comparing Savannah Spurlock to a lifeless doll, her skin cold yet still breathing. The witness wrestled with the reality of the moment, insisting, "Yeah, she was just drunk as shit." It was a haunting question lingering in the air. Was she alive when they left the house? The witness, Brandon Lewis, confirmed with a hesitant nod, affirming that Savannah was indeed alive. Yet investigators sensed something deeper, pressing harder for the truth. While Brandon might not have been directly involved in her disappearance, there was a growing suspicion that he knew more than he was willing to share. Investigators shifted their focus, contemplating a darker possibility. Savannah may not have simply gone missing, she could have been murdered. They confronted Brandon, urging him to be honest. "We know you don't want anything to do with it, but if you didn't have anything to do with it, be honest with us." Brandon's voice trembled as he replied, "I really didn't, man. I swear to God I'll tell you a story." He insisted that his past experiences with death cases haunted him, sharing tales of bodies being moved and the consequences that followed. He recalled a case where a victim was wrapped in a tarp and discarded, hinting at the heavy weight of guilt that burdened those involved. "I worked a case where the person provided the vehicle used to move a dead body," he said, revealing how someone who knew the truth could walk free. "It's time to fucking tell the truth," Brandon urged the investigators, suggesting that whatever was holding him back might not be as grave as he feared. "What you think is so bad, it's probably really not that bad," he insisted, his desire to clear the air palpable. The investigators, frustrated by the lack of clarity, admitted their concerns. They were haunted by thoughts of Savannah's well-being, questioning if she had suffered from alcohol poisoning or worse. The fear that David Sparks, who had been alone with Savannah, might have done something unforgivable loomed large. "Was that a thought that crossed your mind?" They pushed, desperate for insight. Brandon hesitated, finally admitting, "It wasn't a word, but it crossed my mind." The uncertainty weighed heavily in the room. Brandon wrestled with his knowledge of the night's events, revealing their last moment with Savannah. "We were walking out the garage door," he recalled, "and I thought, should we really leave her there?" Isaiah, another friend, had echoed similar concerns, suggesting that they left her in a precarious situation. "I mean, if you did, you did. If you didn't, I don't know," he reflected, his words laced with confusion and regret. Investigators zeroed in on David, sensing his eagerness to be alone with Savannah. They knew they needed to uncover the truth. Isaiah would also be questioned, his account crucial in piecing together the timeline. As the investigation unfolded, search warrants were executed for Isaiah's Nissan Pathfinder and cell phone. His story aligned with Brandon's, yet there were still gaps to fill, particularly regarding David's actions during the hours he spent alone with Savannah. The tension was palpable as investigators sought to unravel the truth, aware that every detail could lead them closer to understanding what really happened to Savannah Spurlock. David expressed his uncertainty, stating that he had no knowledge of what precisely occurred, ambiguous in his reflections about the night. Meanwhile, Isaiah faced the same scrutiny, questioned by investigators seeking any leads. His account, while aligning with David's, left lingering questions about the hours David could have spent alone with Savannah following their departure. Search warrants were also obtained for Isaiah's Nissan Pathfinder and his cell phone. Though his story mirrored Brandon's, investigators needed to clarify the timeline and events surrounding Savannah's disappearance. In a tense exchange, the investigator pressed the friend about the hours following Savannah Spurlock's disappearance. It was clear that nothing unusual had occurred while they were all together that night. Yet, the question loomed. What transpired after they parted ways? The investigator sought to uncover any lingering doubts or discussions surrounding the events that might have unfolded. The friend hesitated, expressing disbelief that anything could have happened after they left Savannah. The investigator pursued the line of questioning, suggesting that perhaps they should consider the possibility, but the friend remained resolute, dismissing the notion outright. The investigator pressed further, pointing out the troubling fact that the last person seen with Savannah was now at the center of a growing investigation, and she had been missing for days. The friend felt cornered, unable to assign blame without evidence, yet the gravity of the situation weighed heavily on their conscience. The investigators' frustration was palpable as they highlighted the stark reality. The last known sighting of Savannah was with a man now implicated in her disappearance. The friend struggled to grasp the implications, their mind racing with thoughts yet unwilling to confront the chilling possibilities. The investigator inquired about the friend's thoughts, urging them to share any lingering suspicions. They had ample time to reflect on the events, and it was clear the weight of uncertainty was taking its toll. Confusion echoed in the air as the investigator sought clarity in a situation that had spiraled into chaos. The investigator pressed on, asking what had crossed the friend's mind in the days since Savannah's disappearance. Had they considered the possibility that David, the last person to see her, could have been involved in something sinister? The friend admitted they did not know David as well as others did, hinting at the complex web of relationships that surrounded the case. The friend described David as a quiet, reserved individual, a loner in many ways. Yet they were aware of his close ties to Brandon, which complicated the narrative further. The investigator sought more details about David's demeanor, probing for any signs that might suggest darker tendencies. As the questioning continued, the friend revealed that David usually kept to himself, only engaging with coworkers during breaks. The investigator's curiosity turned to David's social circles, trying to determine if anyone else could shed light on his character. The friend confirmed that they, along with Brandon and Isaiah, shared meals together daily, solidifying their bond. However, when pressed about any direct knowledge of David's involvement in Savannah's disappearance, the friend remained reluctant, denying any information that could link him to the case. The investigator sought assurances, asking if the friend could vouch for anyone with certainty. The friend admitted they could not be completely sure about David and Brandon, but noted that they had all returned home together, creating a fragile alibi. Despite the shaky alibi, the investigator knew that phone records from Brandon and Isaiah could confirm their whereabouts during the critical early hours. Meanwhile, the search for forensic evidence in David's Pathfinder SUV had yielded no significant findings. However, the search of David's home proved far more revealing. Investigators uncovered a shocking absence of any personal effects belonging to Savannah. No clothing, no jewelry, nothing to suggest she had ever been there. Yet the discovery of a bedside drawer filled with condoms, a 300-weight rifle, and a Derringer-type pistol raised alarm bells. Among the chilling assortment of knives found in that drawer, investigators also noted disturbing blood spatters throughout the bedroom and on various doorways. Samples were collected, destined for forensic analysis, as the specter of a more sinister reality loomed large. As investigators pieced together the evidence, they were haunted by the possibility that Savannah may have met a tragic fate within those very walls. Yet, as of this moment, they had found no definitive proof to confirm that theory. Among the unsettling discoveries was a notebook containing a handwritten letter from David. The contents were chilling, casting an even darker shadow over the investigation as authorities began to unravel the depths of his psyche in light of Savannah's disappearance. Samples were meticulously collected from various doorways in David's home, sent off to the crime lab for analysis. Investigators were hopeful of finding hard evidence that could confirm their suspicions about Savannah's fate. Though no concrete evidence had yet emerged indicating that Savannah had been killed within David's residence, investigators uncovered something unsettling: a notebook containing a handwritten letter by David. The contents of this letter were chilling, especially in light of the ongoing investigation. In a haunting expression of despair, he attempted to articulate the feeling of profound emptiness. He pondered how to convey the weight of death encircling him, a sensation that seemed to elude the comprehension of those around him. Alone and shattered, he crafted facades, pretending to be someone he wasn't, yearning for acceptance. This charade only fueled his anger. He concealed the dark, true nature of his being, burying it deep within the recesses of his mind, a practice he had mastered over the years. In a chilling admission within that letter, he confessed to feeling no genuine love for anything. Now, with the unsettling understanding of his own identity, he felt an even greater compulsion to hide his true self. The struggle for freedom from this torment left him in a constant state of irritation, an unshakable feeling that nothing offered him solace anymore. He questioned how one could look their mother in the eyes and reveal the monstrous truth that he was a born psychopath. The thought of being the child she bore, a being capable of extinguishing the last breath of life from another, haunted him. He imagined the chilling act of plunging a knife into someone's chest and finding joy in it. Was this outpouring a manifesto, a glimpse into the soul of a man who might have acted on such dark impulses when Savannah was left alone with him? Or were these merely the ramblings of a troubled mind, a bad day laid bare in a journal? Investigators grappled with these questions as they began to take David more seriously as a suspect. Officers canvassing the neighborhood unearthed security camera footage that captured David loading large black trash bags into the back of his truck, then driving away shortly after the night Savannah had been in his home. When investigators searched the Sparks residence, they noted a peculiar cleanliness, as if the house had undergone a meticulous scrub. Everything appeared in order, with no signs of disorder. One officer even remarked that the bottom half of every wall seemed freshly wiped down. Was David merely tidying up after a major cleanup, or was he disposing of something far more sinister? Following up at the local landfill, investigators and cadaver dogs sifted through the refuse, but turned up no evidence. The state crime lab also found nothing of interest among the items taken from David's home. As the case unraveled, questions loomed regarding David's actions. Had he been disposing of evidence? Investigators, alongside cadaver dogs, scoured the local landfill, but their search yielded no significant leads. The state crime lab also reported finding nothing of interest from the items taken from David's house. The blood swabs collected from the scene yielded DNA profiles that did not match either David Sparks or Savannah Spurlock. Investigators concluded that the blood likely belonged to a previous tenant of the house, a fact that raised further questions about the timeline. David had only moved in just over a month prior, leaving a disturbing cloud of uncertainty hanging over the case. Despite extensive investigations, there was simply no actual evidence indicating that any of the three men were involved in the disappearance of Savannah Spurlock on January 4, 2019. As a result, none of the men faced charges or arrests. The nearby home and property belonging to David Sparks's parents were thoroughly searched, yet no evidence emerged. Alan and Alta Sparks's residence, along with an acre of land surrounding the house, was included in the search efforts. However, these searches yielded nothing of significance. In the midst of these developments, a lifelong friend of David, Haley Hinkle, who was incarcerated in a local jail, found an opportunity to speak with detectives. She aimed to provide insight into David's character, assuring them of his good nature. She recounted, "We just wanted to make sure they understood what kind of person he is." Haley described David as an amazing person, recalling the ink of a name tattooed on his arm. She emphasized that he had always been there for her in times of need. "He's a good dude, for real. He goes to church with his mom. His dad's always been there, too. His uncle used to be a pastor at my church." Her testimony seemed to echo a sentiment shared repeatedly as investigators pressed for further details. "You've told us multiple times he's a good dude. Is there anything more you can share?" they inquired, seeking a deeper understanding of the young man. In the depths of an investigation, a question lingered. Was there ever a moment when David Sparks acted out of character? Perhaps a fleeting indication that something was amiss. Yet those who knew him best recalled nothing unusual. As one friend reflected, David had never exhibited anger, not even when faced with heartache. Despite having broken his heart countless times, he remained steadfast, consistently returning to the same familiar demeanor. When pressed further, investigators sought to uncover any unsettling behaviors, wondering if he had ever displayed physical signs of distress. Yet, the consensus remained. David was simply an awkward individual. Once people got past his quirks, they discovered he wasn't so bad after all. In a troubling turn, David's attorney approached the police, clarifying that a letter David had penned emerged during a period of deep depression, a time when his true self seemed shrouded in darkness. This revelation left the community grappling with uncertainty, anxiously wondering about Savannah's fate. Was she alive, or had her life been extinguished? If the latter were true, Who could be responsible for such a heinous act? National attention turned toward Lexington, Kentucky, amplifying the urgency of the search for Savannah. Ellen Spurlock, Savannah's mother, shared her anguish on ABC News, expressing her disbelief at her daughter's disappearance. It was a scenario she never imagined, one that bore the weight of a mother's worst nightmare. In her heartfelt plea, Ellen spoke of her reliance on faith, family, and friends during this harrowing time, urging Savannah to return home, where love awaited her in abundance. While the search continued, David returned to live with his parents, and Isaiah and Brandon, his friends, resumed their daily lives. The twins were placed in their father's care, leaving Savannah's friends in a state of worry and confusion, hoping for a breakthrough in the investigation. Then, a significant development emerged. The Richmond Police Department received an unexpected call from the attorney representing Alan and Alta Sparks, who reported a foul odor emanating from the strawberry patch in their backyard. They insisted police investigate the source of the stench. As the Kentucky State Police were alerted, a search warrant was swiftly obtained, leading to a coordinated effort that included a team of 11 FBI agents descending upon the rural Kentucky home. As law enforcement moved in, David Sparks made his way to the Richmond Police Department. Upon arrival, he parked his car, tossed the keys into the back seat, locked the doors, and steeled himself for what was to come. At the front desk, he requested a lawyer, a stark contrast to the unfolding events at the Sparks home, where the gruesome discovery of Savannah Spurlock's body lay just beneath the surface of the garden. Buried merely 19 inches deep, Savannah's lifeless form was uncovered, naked and folded, her feet bound together with tape. Her body had been concealed within a large black plastic trash bag, alongside a small accent rug, secured beneath 2 additional bags. A small tear in the corner hinted at the grim circumstances. It appeared an animal had disturbed the grave, exposing the remnants to the air. As crews worked diligently to recover the body, Alan and Alta Sparks were interviewed by investigators, recounting the unsettling discovery that had shattered their world. In those harrowing moments, they detailed their chilling find, forever marking the community and the investigation with a sense of dread and loss. The search for answers had taken a dark turn, and the quest for justice for Savannah Spurlock was only just beginning. As search crews continued their grim task, they stumbled upon a spot where an animal had likely dug into the soil, creating a gaping hole that exposed the earth to the air. This unsettling discovery prompted Alan and Alta Sparks to be interviewed by investigators about what they had found during their own search efforts a couple of weeks prior. As the sun began to set over the garden, a routine task of mowing and weeding took an unsettling turn. The air was thick with an unfamiliar odor, and in a secluded patch of dirt, something had been disturbed, as if the earth itself whispered secrets of the past. With heavy rains recently sweeping through the area, the notion crossed his mind that perhaps an animal had fallen victim to the wild, burying its remains in the soft earth. Living on a farm, he had seen this before, a grim reality of nature. It was an explanation he clung to, so he grabbed a shovel, filled in the hole, and hoped the smell would eventually fade away. Days passed, but then, on Tuesday, while mowing again, the odor returned, stronger this time. It seeped into the air, wrapping around him like a shroud, and as he maneuvered the riding mower near the fence, his instincts urged him to investigate once more, despite the oppressive heat. After finishing with the larger mower, he switched to the push mower, heading toward the area that had drawn his attention. There, he spotted something that stirred his unease, a glimpse of black plastic peeking out of the disturbed soil. Choosing caution, he decided to delay any further probing. The heat was overwhelming, and he sought refuge from the sun, but a nagging feeling lingered. When his wife returned home, he mentioned the discovery, and curiosity propelled them both back to the garden. About 30 minutes later, they descended into the garden, armed with a sense of dread. It was clear that the ground had been tampered with. As he began to dig, the truth started to unravel before them. The soil yielded secrets. A black bag lay buried beneath the surface. It was an unsettling sight. What appeared to be a rug was partially visible, and a wave of apprehension washed over him. In that moment, clarity struck. They had to cover it back up. With urgency, he grabbed the shovel again, yearning to shield the horror from sight, knowing that the flies buzzing around were a grim omen of what lay beneath. After covering the disturbing find, they retreated to the safety of their home, but the conversation shifted to darker thoughts. They speculated about the nature of the discovery, pondering how someone could have hidden something so sinister in their garden. Their minds raced. Was this evidence of a crime? Did someone bury something here with intent? The notion hung heavy in the air, and they couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a routine animal burial. As the questions lingered, a chilling thought crossed his mind. Could the odor he had noticed, the very disturbance in the garden, be connected to the disappearance of Savannah Spurlock? The possibility gnawed at him, but he didn't know for certain. Still, he felt a growing urgency to uncover the truth. It was clear that this was no ordinary situation, and he wanted answers. Underneath the surface, a sinister reality awaited discovery. They had unwittingly stumbled upon a narrative woven into the fabric of their lives, a tale that involved more than just the local wildlife. The more they pondered, the more they sensed that something was amiss. It was as if the ground itself was a witness, silently urging them to delve deeper into the mystery that surrounded Savannah's fate. As the investigation unfolded, authorities would soon discover items in David Sparks's room that painted a chilling portrait. A collection of black trash bags, rubber gloves, and a roll of clear packing tape. The media storm erupted shortly after Savannah's body was found, and David Sparks was arrested. During the autopsy, 3 yards of packing tape used to bind Savannah's feet were meticulously unrolled. The ragged edge of that tape matched perfectly with the roll found in David's room, weaving an undeniable connection that would haunt the community. In a further twist, a backpack discovered in David's closet revealed tiny traces of blood, a mix that matched both David and Savannah. The chilling evidence was stacking up, painting a gruesome picture of betrayal and violence. With each layer uncovered, the truth seemed more elusive yet more apparent. The investigation had only just begun, but it was clear that Savannah's disappearance was a dark tale of secrets that demanded to be told. The state medical examiner faced a grim challenge. Due to the advanced decomposition and the damage inflicted by animals and insects, the exact manner of Savannah Spurlock's death eluded confirmation. Nevertheless, a ruling of homicide was confidently established, particularly given the troubling circumstances surrounding where her body was discovered. The effort to conceal Savannah's remains, coupled with the unnatural positioning of her body, led investigators to conclude foul play. Bound and placed within bags, the evidence painted a chilling picture. Ultimately, David Sparks entered a guilty plea to the murder of Savannah Spurlock. He was sentenced to 50 years in prison for his heinous crime. In addition, Sparks received 12 years for tampering with evidence and another year for the abuse of a corpse. These sentences would run concurrently, a decision made by Kentucky Commonwealth attorneys. They opted for a plea deal of 50 years instead of pursuing a life sentence or the death penalty, believing they could not sufficiently prove aggravating circumstances surrounding the killing. David Sparks has remained silent about his motives, never revealing why he chose to end Savannah's life, although he did not deny his involvement. Currently, Sparks is serving his sentence at the Southeastern State Correctional Complex in Wheelwright, Kentucky, with the possibility of parole looming in 2039. If this case has captivated your interest, be sure to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell to stay informed about the latest shocking cases we unveil. Until next time, remember to stay safe and remain vigilant. You never know what darkness lies hidden in the shadows. With each revelation, the case unfolded further, leaving the community in shock. As the investigation continued, the narrator reminded viewers, "Until next time, stay safe and keep your eyes peeled. You never know what might be lurking in the shadows."